Okay, hi everybody. Sorry, I'm outside. I'm doing my desk. It's been a couple days. I'm sorry. I've been trying to keep everything updated, but this desk has actually been taking me a long time. I have all these like grand ideas. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make this beautiful desk and it's gonna be perfect. And then you start working at it and you're like, ugh, it's not as pretty as I thought it would be. But the thing is I've come to find out, and I should have known this from my millworking class in college, that it's not going to look so pretty when it starts, but the more you work on it, the better it will become. So let me just take you through this quick little tutorial of how I'm doing this. I wanted to make an inserted desk in my closet. So I'm basically making my closet into my office. Sorry, I'm outside. So what I've been doing is I took measurements of the interior of my closet, and I've decided that I'm going to make a floating table. Well, I guess the front end of my closet doesn't really have accessible studs, so I'm going to have to use legs for the front, but that's no big deal. Anyways, so let me show you what I've done. So this is basically the base of it. This is the underside of it. I'll show you guys the top one in a minute. It's just my garage is a little messy, so I'm trying to like exclude the mess. But so basically what I did is I took a couple of extra 2x4s that we had laying around, and we cut them to the dimensions of the closet. So it really, from what I've been learning, doesn't really matter which way it's going to go. It's kind of basically going to look like a theater flat. I've learned this from my husband, Chad. Thank you very much. Basically, you take a piece of 2x4 and then you cut it to the dimensions of your closet. And so I took a piece of 2x4 and I cut it to where it's the width, the very end is basically going to be the width of the closet, and then the length is going to be this way. If you guys can get a good picture of it. That's the underside of it. So when you take the measurements, depending on if you're going to make the ends or the whatever. So this is basically the exact width of my closet. And you basically take the whole measure of the length of the closet minus the distance between the width of the side panels. So the deep part of my closet is 23.5 inches. So that's how long I made the ends. And then the length of it is 61. But what I ended up doing is subtracting the distance between those 2x4s. These right here. Now, what I've learned is that you have to measure, because even though it says 2x4, I can't remember what Chad called it. It's never a 2x4. So it's going to be like 1.5 by whatever, the length of whatever you cut it. That width right there is not technically 2. So always measure when you're doing something like that. Anyways, so what I ended up doing is I ended up creating the length, and I'll show you in a second when I flip it over. But I didn't have a lot of money, so I ended up having to put a seam down one part of it, which I'm going to cover up later, so it doesn't really matter because I'm going to put shelving there. But wherever you have a seam or a split on the top side, if you end up having to do it like I did, put a brace. So what you do is you basically take a brace and you measure the inside of your flat, which is the desk, and then you basically put in a 2x4 as a brace, like that. Super easy. So, and I cut and did everything all by myself. Of course, Chad told me how to do a lot of stuff, but you know, I did it by myself. Anyways, so once you've got that done, basic rule of thumb, always pre-drill your holes because you don't want it to split. I learned that the hard way. So just take I can't remember even what it is. It's a bit that you put onto the drill and it pre-drills it, and it's way easier to put screws in that way. Anyway, so what I did is I constructed the frame, and then I put a brace where the seam is at, and then I put on the top. Now the top is this right here. I'll show you better when I flip it over. But what I did is you cut it basically to the dimensions of the whatever width by height or length, whatever the top is going to be, and then you pre-drill and then drill in the screws on the top. So let me put you down for a second and I'll show you what I did. I gotta flip it, hold on. Okay, sorry about that. Anyways, so this is what it looks like from the front without the front facing that I'm going to put on it. So this is basically the top. This is after one coat of stain. I got the stain poly, which I'll talk about in a minute. But basically what you want to do is you want to screw it in on the top. You screw it in basically on your weak points. This is where the seam's at because I didn't have long enough wood. So this is where the seam is at. But basically that's kind of what it looks like. And it's got the 2x4 facing. So you put the frame together, you put the top on, you screw it in on the corners, basically strengthen it. Then you screw in on the top. What you want to do is you want to countersink your screws. What that means is it goes down, here's the surface of it. You want it to drop just a little tiny bit. So what you really want to get on there and force the screw in. Once you get it in, then you can actually, it's a little trick I learned, take a little bit of sawdust and wood glue and mix it together kind of like a paste. And then you put it inside the groove that the screw will leave on top. So leave it towards like a little bit above it and then let it dry. And then sand it down, and that will actually hide the screw so you don't have to worry about screws. Now, I didn't really do such a pretty job about it, but let's see, that one's pretty good. Like, there's a screw there. Where'd it go? There's a screw right there. And then you just sand it down, and then voila, you got your thing. So I got a poly stain, which is basically stain that has a poly in it. So when it's done, it's supposed to leave a little, like a nice little polyurethane cover on it. Well, I've never done it before, so me being the genius that I am, I tried to rinse it out with water. Don't do that. Always, 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 always wear gloves. If you're painting, if you're staining, I don't really care about painting that much, but staining, especially with a poly, you want to wear gloves, which I did not do. Anyways, so I got poly all over my hands, and I freaked out because they were like literally glued like that. So I didn't know what to do. Googled it. Thank God I did. Vegetable oil. If you get any polyurethane, anything on your hands, it's basically going to put a shellac on your hands and it's going to stick to everything. So what you want to do is take a little vegetable oil, scrub, scrub, scrub a lot, which I had to do. Then you wash it off. The thing is that then you're going to have that film on it from the oil. Just wash it with dish soap and then right as rain. Thank God for Google. Anyways, so that's what I've been doing the past couple days. Sorry, it's been taking me a little while to update. Next thing I'm gonna do is put another stain on it, because this is just one coat. So you can see it's kind of shiny. Can I get that? Yeah, it's kind of shiny, but not the poly shiny that you really want. Ooh, plane going by, sorry. Wow, that guy's low. Anyway, so what you want to do is, it states it on the stain. Here, let me get you. This is the beautiful, I don't know if you'll get that, nice little poly stain that I got at Lowe's. Ooh, fancy. So basically, it kind of it calls for a couple coats if you wanted to get it darker, and I want that stain a little bit darker. So what you do is you put the poly on with a brush, natural bristle brush. Brush it on at a 45-degree angle, which is best. Make sure you get a nice thin coat on it, and then let it dry for 6 hours. And so when it's done after 6 hours, then you want to take what they call basically steel wool, but I don't got no steel wool, so I was like, I'm gonna go fancy, and I got this really handy dandy 3M. Basically looks like a scrubbing pad, like for dish soap, dishes and stuff, but it's basically kind of a steel wool version of it, and it's called Between Coats Finishing Pad. Ooh, fancy. Anyways, so you take this little pad and you go with the grain. Always when you're sanding, go with the grain. Oh, and I forgot to mention, before you poly or stain anything, you want to sand it. Sand it down, sand the edges, because that bad boy, that edge right there, you do not want to get your arm snagged on that bad boy and get a splinter, because it sucks. Anyways, so sand it down. Make sure you blow everything off. Get a dry cloth, wipe it down. Then you want to get a lightly damp cloth, and you want to wipe all the excess residue of the sawdust and stuff from the sanding, and you want to wipe that down. Let it dry for a few minutes, and then you put on your poly. Anyways, this is what you want to use when you're in between stains. Go ahead and sand it down with this nice little fiber brush right here. Then you want to wipe it down, and then you want to put your second coat on, and it should be good after that. If you want, sand it down a second time, put on another coat, depending on how dark you want the coat. Anyways, so after that, I got a nice little finishing pad. I don't know if I'm going to use it yet because it doesn't call for it on the instructions, but it's basically something you can get at Lowe's. What is going on with the planes today? Ooh, that guy's real low. Okay, so this little guy right here is a finishing pad. It's a little bit lighter. It's softer, and it's supposed to give you like a buff. It's supposed to buff it out. Anyways, then, and I don't know how I'm going to do this yet. I won't talk about it because I know this is already way too long, but I've got to do a front because I did put it together and it looked kind of cute, and then I was like, oh, there's like heck of screws up in the front, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to. I'm a little perfectionist, so I don't know if I want to do that. So what I decided to do is I have this excess board right here. This is basically the top material. It's oak, by the way. Super fancy. Anyways, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that and I'm going to make a guide. Basically what you want to do is you want to draw the line where you want to cut. And then you take your saw, which is, we have a hand saw. We need to get I think it's a compact miter saw, or I can't remember what it's called. Chad knows, I don't. What you want to do is you want to take your guide, and you could do a piece of 2x4, take the edge of the saw and line it up with your line. Well, where the edge of that saw is, on the left hand side, you could put a little nick or a mark, and then you could put a piece of 2x4 on that line to create a guide. I'll show you when I do it, so don't worry about that. And then I'm going to cut pieces, and I'm going to stain them, and then I'm going to glue them and clamp them to the front. I also got a piece of backboard that I'm going to put on the very back once I install it, and I'll show you that later because this is already getting way too long. But that's what I've been up to the past couple days, so hopefully I'm hoping to install this tonight. It's getting kind of late, and I don't want to wake up Lucy, so I don't know what's going to happen. But anyways, that's where I'm at right now on the desk. It took way too long to do, but it's a learning process. So I'll go ahead and post this video, and I will keep you guys updated. I'm hoping to install the, uninstall the desk tomorrow, and install the cove lighting, which is going to be kind of a learning process too, because I was hoping to do that the other day, but then the painting got out of control. So last thing I'm going to talk about before I sign off is, I'll just be straight up honest with you. I'm doing this Lula room, and I'm a little worried because I'm like, I just painted this room. I totally deep cleaned it. I painted it, and now I'm staining this desk, and I'm going to put that in. So I was like, my room's going to smell like paint and stain. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I did a lot of Googling last night, and with some very, very helpful friends. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, everybody who commented. I've got a couple ideas of how I'm going to basically create kind of a natural filter, because I don't have like $400 to blow on a HEPA filter that is amazing, and I want it really bad, but I'm going to have to save for it. Anyways, so if you get, it's called Peace Lilies, and they have them super cheap at, or affordable I should say, at Lowe's or Home Depot, but they're smaller. What you want to do is you want to get the bigger ones, because the bigger ones are the ones that really, really work. You can also take bowls of white vinegar. I have distilled white vinegar I'm going to use, and crushed charcoal. Not pre-treated, like, you know, soaked in gasoline charcoal, like natural charcoal. Crush those bad boys up, spread them around the room. It's supposed to help absorb the smell. So I'm going to try that tomorrow. I'm praying to God, because, like, I got to get this smell out of my house, because I ain't putting my beautiful merchandise in there if it smells like paint. So I'll be trying to do that tomorrow, and I'll also be hanging the shelves as well. So Tomorrow's gonna be a big day, but I will keep you guys updated. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.